I used to be just terrified at the thought of being on camera, and I took every opportunity I could to escape being in front of almost any lens. When I couldn't avoid it, I was racked with anxiety, with all sorts of irrational thoughts like, oh, you look like such an idiot. You can't do this. You aren't even smart enough to say anything intelligent on camera. Despite that fear, despite that anxiety, here I am. I'm talking to you. I'm feeling really comfortable. I'm feeling confident in front of the camera. Find out how I did it, coming up next. Welcome back to the Daily Dose. I'm Dr. Lance Garrison. I'm a psychologist with a background in health psychology and behavioral medicine, and I'm dean for the College of Professional Psychology at the Chicago School. My goal for the Daily Dose, for this channel, is to help you better understand how the way we think and the way we feel on a day-to-day basis contribute to our mental health. I believe that knowledge is power, and when we have that power, we can create positive momentum for change in our lives. So let's jump right in. And as you watch today's video, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. So as I mentioned, I used to be terrified of being in front of the camera. And when we have feelings like that, a crucial part of managing that anxiety can be something called exposure therapy. And what it does is it helps you confront your fears and overcome avoidance, like the avoidance I had of being in front of the camera. So if you've been struggling with anxiety, part of that may be that you found yourself avoiding certain situations or people or particular objects that trigger fear and anxiety in you. And while avoiding that can provide some temporary relief, it ultimately serves to reinforce your fears and limit your ability to live a more full and meaningful life. So that's where exposure therapy comes in. And what exposure therapy is a powerful technique that we use in cognitive behavioral therapy to help people confront fears and build confidence and resilience in the face of them. And the idea is that when we repeatedly face our fears and we do it in kind of a safe and controlled environment, what happens is we gradually desensitize ourselves to the anxiety that the things we're afraid of provoke in us. We develop a greater sense of mastery and control over them. So take a moment and imagine that you have a fear of public speaking, which is incredibly common. You might have spent years avoiding presentations at work or at school, even turning down opportunities to share your ideas and your insights. And in exposure therapy, your therapist would work with you to create what we call a hierarchy of fear-provoking situations. So we'd start with the least challenging and then gradually work our way up to the most difficult and fear, anxiety-producing type of scenario. So you might begin just by imagining yourself giving a speech, and then maybe practicing in front of a mirror, and then recording yourself, and then stepping it up, speaking in front of a small group of supportive friends or family members. And throughout that whole process, what your therapist would do would be to guide you using relaxation techniques such as deep breathing and progressive muscle relaxation, the things we talked about in yesterday's video, to help manage your anxiety as you go through that hierarchy. The key to exposure therapy is that it's done in a gradual and a systematic way. So you move through the hierarchy at your pace, only progressing to the next level when you feel ready. And this allows you to build confidence and coping skills in a way that feels manageable and ultimately quite empowering. Now, as with many things, it's important to note that exposure therapy is just not about throwing yourself into the deep end. It's not about just turning around and immediately facing your worst fear right away. It's a collaborative process between you and your therapist, and it's one that's tailored to your unique needs and your particular goals. So your therapist is going to work with you to ensure that the exposure exercises are challenging, but they're not overwhelming. And your therapist will provide you with support and guidance each step of the way to help you have what you need to be successful. And as you move through that exposure hierarchy, what you're going to find more often than not is that your anxiety begins to lessen. And things that seemed impossible or terrifying all of a sudden start to feel pretty manageable. You're probably going to discover that you've got strengths and abilities within yourself that you didn't know you had, and you're going to develop confidence and resilience. Of course, exposure therapy is not always easy. It's normal to feel discomfort or to feel anxiety along the way. It's part of the process. But when you stick with it, when you persist and you get support, it can be a really, really effective tool for overcoming the avoidance associated with the anxiety and reclaiming your life from that anxiety. So if you're interested in exploring exposure therapy as a part of helping manage your anxiety, I encourage you to reach out to a licensed clinical psychologist or another qualified mental health professional who has experience and can guide you through that process. Please always remember seeking help is a sign of strength. It's not weakness, because you deserve to live a life that's free from the limitations of the anxiety that you're experiencing. As always, thanks so much for joining me. I hope today's video provided you with some insights and maybe hope that you can overcome this, because you can. Until next time, be kind to yourself and remember that you are capable of facing your fears and thriving in the face of anxiety.